Class 12th, Subject Chemistry, Chapter number 2, Solutions, Part 7. So in this class, we would be learning about vapor pressure of liquid solutions. In order to understand the vapor pressure of liquid solutions, we must firstly understand what are liquid solutions. Liquid solutions are formed when the solvent is a liquid and the solute can either be a gas, a liquid, or a solid. That is, the solute can be either of the three states, but the solvent has to be in a liquid state. This would result in the formation of liquid solutions. So previously we had discussed about solutions of gases and liquids, that is the solutions that are formed when gases are dissolved in liquids. And we had also learnt about Henry's law and the applications of Henry's law. In this section, we will be learning about solutions of liquids and solids in a liquid. That is, basically, we would be focusing on liquids being dissolved in liquids and what happens when solids are dissolved in liquids. So we are focusing mainly on binary solutions. Binary solutions are those solutions which contain two components. For example, liquids in a liquid is an example of binary solution where liquids are dissolved in liquids. Similarly, solids in liquids is also an example of binary solution where solids is dissolved in liquids. Okay, so firstly in this class we would be learning about the first type of binary solution, that is liquids in liquids. So in order to understand this concept, firstly we must understand Raoult's law. So Raoult's law establishes a quantitative relationship between the partial vapor pressure and the mole fraction of the solution. So it gives a quantitative relationship between the partial vapor pressure and mole fraction of the solution. So Raoult's law is only applicable for liquid solutions, and Raoult's law states that for a solution of volatile liquids, the partial vapor pressure, that is P, of each component in the solution is directly proportional to its mole fraction X present in the solution. Okay, so the partial vapor pressure, that is P, is directly proportional to the mole fraction, that is X, present in the solution. So Raoult's law can be mathematically expressed as P, which is partial vapor pressure, being directly proportional to X, that is mole fraction. So in order to remove the proportionality sign, we can write the equation as P is equal to P naught X, where P naught is nothing but the vapor pressure of pure component at the same temperature. So P is equal to P naught X, where P is nothing but the partial vapor pressure of the solution. P naught is the vapor pressure of pure component at the same temperature, and X is the mole fraction. So if we are considering a binary solution here which contains two components, that is component 1 and 2, so Raoult's law can be expressed for component 1 as P1 directly proportional to X1, where P1 is nothing but the vapor pressure or the partial vapor pressure of component 1, and which is directly proportional to X1, which is the mole fraction of component 1. So the equation can be written as P1 is equal to P1 naught X1. So this equation is denoted as equation number 1. Similarly, for component 2, Raoult's law can be expressed as P2 directly proportional to X2. That is, partial vapor pressure of component 2 is directly proportional to mole fraction of component 2. So the equation can be written as P2 is equal to P2 naught X2, and it is denoted by equation 2. Now here let us consider the solvent to be represented by 1, that is component 1 is the solvent and solute will be represented by 2, that is component 2 is the solute. Okay, so component 1 is the solvent and component 2 is the solute here. Now at a point when the solute is non-volatile, that is the solute molecules are non-volatile in nature, just as the solvent molecules which are volatile, that is which are present in vapor phase, so what will happen? They will add on to the vapor phase. That is the solute molecules are non-volatile, but the solvent molecules are volatile, that is they are present in vapor phase, so they will add on to the vapor phase. So P1 is nothing but the vapor pressure of the solvent, P2 is the vapor pressure of the solute, and X1 is the mole fraction of the solvent. We know component 1 is the solvent, that's why it's the mole fraction of the solvent, and X2 is nothing but mole fraction of the solute. While P1 naught and P2 naught are the vapor pressure in the pure state of component 1 and of component 2 respectively. Okay, so 1 is nothing but the solvent and component 2 is nothing but the solute. So P1 is nothing but vapor pressure of the solvent and X1 is a mole fraction of the solvent. Similarly for component 2, that is the solute, P2 is the vapor pressure of the solute and X2 is the mole fraction of the solute. And P1 naught and P2 naught are the vapor pressure in the pure state of component 1 and 2. So according to Raoult's law, we can write P1 or P directly proportional to X or X1. So the equation of Raoult's law is P1 is equal to P1 naught X1. Okay, so Raoult's law, according to Raoult's law, the equation is P1 is equal to P1 naught X1. So now we have understood what is Raoult's law. Let us look into the plot that is being formed when you are plotting against vapor pressure and mole fraction. That is P1 vapor pressure of the solvent when it is plotted against X1, which is the mole fraction of the solvent, we get a linear plot. We get a straight line graph, right? So since we are plotting vapor pressure against mole fraction, we know vapor pressure of the solvent, that is P1, is directly proportional to the mole fraction of the solvent X1. So we know when vapor pressure will increase, the mole fraction will also increase because both of them are directly proportional to each other. Okay, so we get a straight line plot, and from this plot, from the straight line or linear plot, we obtain the vapor pressure of pure solvent as well, that is P1 naught. Okay, so this is a plot that is plotted against vapor pressure, that is of the solvent, that is P1, versus mole fraction of the solvent, that is X1. Okay, where we get a linear graph or we get a straight line plot, and vapor pressure of the pure solvent, that is P1 naught, is also obtained. So now we have understood Raoult's law, and we have also understood the plot of Raoult's law, where we are getting a linear plot because the vapor pressure is directly proportional to the mole fraction. Now let us understand the vapor pressure of liquid-liquid solutions. Firstly, we need to understand what are these liquid-liquid solutions. That is, when a liquid is dissolved in a liquid, it would give rise to a liquid-liquid solution. For example, acetic acid in water is an example of liquid-liquid solutions. Similarly, lemon juice added to water for making lemonade is also an example of liquid-liquid solutions, where the solute and the solvent, both of them are in liquid state, that gives rise to liquid-liquid solutions. Okay, so acetic acid is a liquid, right? It's a solution which when dissolved in water gives rise to a liquid-liquid solution. Similarly, lemon juice is also liquid in nature, right? When it is dissolved in water, this also gives rise to a liquid-liquid solutions. So both the solute and the solvent are in the same state, that is liquid state. Now let us consider two volatile components of a binary solution, and it is expressed as 1 and 2. Okay, so the component 1 and 2 make up the binary solution. Now when the solution is taken in a closed vessel, both the components of the solution would evaporate because both of them are volatile. Okay, so both of them are volatile. So both the components of the solution, when we are taking it in a closed vessel, we know both of them would evaporate, and it would establish an equilibrium state between the vapor phase and the liquid phase. Okay, so when we are taking two volatile components into a closed vessel, both the components of the solution would evaporate and they will establish an equilibrium between the vapor phase and the liquid phase. And we have to consider here, that is, let us consider P total as the total vapor pressure at this stage, and P1 as the partial vapor pressure of component 1, P2 as the partial vapor pressure of component 2, X1 and X2 as the mole fractions of component 1 and component 2. Okay, so P total is nothing but the total vapor pressure that is being formed at that stage, at this stage. Okay, and P1 and P2 are the partial vapor pressure of component 1 and 2. Similarly, X1 and X2 are the mole fractions of component 1 and 2. Now, according to Dalton's law, the partial pressures states, according to Dalton's law of partial pressure, it states that the total pressure, that is P total of the solution, is the sum of partial pressures of the components of the solutions. That is Dalton's law of partial pressure. It states that the total pressure, that is P total of the solution, is the sum of the partial pressures of the components of the solution. That is, when you are adding, or the sum of the partial pressures of the components is giving rise to the total pressure, that is P total. So it is denoted by P total is equal to P1 plus P2. Okay, so sum of the individual components gives rise to the total pressure of the solution, that is P total. So P total is equal to P1 plus P2. Now we need to here substitute the values of P1 and P2 that we are getting from equation 1 and 2. Remember, we have considered two equations in Raoult's law as equation 1 and equation 2. This is equation 1, P1 is equal to P1 naught x1, and P2 is equal to P2 naught x2 is equation 2. So we have considered these two equations as equation 1 and 2. Now we are going to substitute the values of P1 and P2 into this equation. Okay, and we also know that sum of the mole fractions of the solution is always unity, that is x1 plus x2, that is sum of the mole fractions always gives rise to or is equal to 1. x1 plus x2 is equal to 1. Okay, so x1 is equal to 1 minus x2. We need to even consider these two equations also. So now let us substitute the values here. We know P total is equal to P1 plus P2, right? We know according to Dalton's law, P total, that is total vapor pressure of the solution, is equal to individual vapor pressures of the components, that is of the component 1 and 2. So P total is equal to P1 plus P2. We know P total is equal to, we need to here substitute the value of P1 of equation 1. P1 is equal to P1 naught x1. Similarly, P2 is equal to P2 naught x2. And we know x1 plus x2 is equal to 1. So x1 is equal to 1 minus x2. So we need to substitute the value of x1 and x2 also here. P total is equal to 1 minus x2 P1 naught plus x2 is equal to 1 minus x1 P2 naught. Okay, so P1 naught plus P2 naught minus P1 naught into x2, that is we have taken x2 as common. So the equation here becomes now P total is equal to P1 naught plus P2 naught minus P1 naught into x2, which is considered as equation 3. Okay, consider this equation as equation 3. Okay, here P1 naught plus P2 naught minus P1 naught is taken into brackets, where x2 has been taken out as common. Okay, so P total is equal to P1 naught plus P2 naught minus P1 naught into x2. Now from the equation 3 we are getting three conclusions, that is we can conclude from the following equation 3 statements can be concluded. Okay, so the following conclusions can be made from equation 3. that is P total is equal to P1 naught plus P2 naught minus P1 naught into X2. So the first conclusion is total vapor pressure over the solution can be related to the mole fraction of any one component, right? Yes. So the total vapor pressure, that is P total over the solution, is related or can be related to the mole fraction of any one component. Any one component, that is, it is related to mole fraction of both X1 and X2. This is the first conclusion that we are getting from equation 3. Now let us move on to the second conclusion. Second conclusion is total vapor pressure over the solution varies linearly with the mole fraction of component 2. Right, the total vapor pressure, that is P total, which is present over the solution, varies linearly. We get a linear plot when it is plotted against mole fraction of component 2. Okay, so we get a linear plot when we are plotting total vapor pressure against mole fraction of component 2. So this is the second conclusion that we are getting from the equation 3. So the last conclusion is, depending on the vapor pressures of the pure components 1 and 2, total vapor pressure over the solution decreases or increases with the increase of mole fraction of component 1. That is, we know that vapor pressure of the pure components 1 and 2 depends on the total vapor pressure. Okay, so total vapor pressure, that is P total, which is present over the solution, either increases or decreases with an increase in the mole fraction of component 1. Okay, since vapor pressure of both the pure components depends with the total vapor pressure. Okay, so total vapor pressure either increases or decreases with the increase in mole fraction of component 1. These are the three conclusions that we are getting from equation 3. Now let us understand this plot that is given. That is, this is a plot of vapor pressure and mole fraction of an ideal solution at the same or constant temperature. So we can see here vapor pressure being plotted against mole fraction. Okay, and we can see dotted lines being formed. That is, we can see lines 1, 2 and 3, right, where line 1 is P1, line 2 is P2, and the third line is P total, that is P1 plus P2. Okay, so dashed lines, that is dashed lines 1 and 2 represent the partial vapor pressures of the components, right? Dash, that is lines 1 and 2 are representing partial vapor pressures of component 1 and component 2. And we can see the third line, that is dash 3, or we can see the line 3 denoting P total, that is the total vapor pressure being formed by adding P1 and P2. That is, by adding individual components P1 and P2, we are getting the value of P total here. So with the help of this plot, we can get, that is, this plot is of P1 or P2 versus X1 and X2. Okay, we know that we have made this plot of vapor pressure, that is P1 proportional to X1, or we can either plot this graph of P2 proportional to X2, right? We know that P1 is directly proportional to X1, so we will get a linear plot. Similarly, for P2 directly proportional to X2 also we get a linear plot. So this plot can be made, okay, of P1 or P2 versus the mole fraction X1 and X2 for a solution, and we know that it would give us a linear plot. Why it will give us a linear plot? It gives us a linear plot because we know partial vapor pressure is directly proportional to mole fraction, right? P1 or P2 is directly proportional to X1 or X2. Now in this diagram we have seen lines 1 and 2 being passing through a point respectively when X1 and X2 is equal to unity. Okay, at this point we can see X1 and X2 is equal to unity, that is X1 plus X2 is equal to 1 here at this point where dashes 1 and dashes 2 are meeting. Okay, so line 1 and line 2 meets at a point where X1 and X2 is equal to unity. Similarly, we can see from the line 3 the value of P total, that is P total is equal to P1 plus P2. So similarly, plot 3 or line 3 of P total versus X2 or P total versus X2 on mole fraction is also linear plot, right? We have understood in the conclusion number 2, that is when we are plotting total vapor pressure of P total against mole fraction of component 2, we get a linear plot. Okay, that is observed through line 3. That is P total when it is plotted against mole fraction x2, we get a linear plot. Okay, this is what that is explained in the statement 2, that is plot or line 3 of P total versus x2 is also linear, right? And when we are plotting x1 and x2 or P1 and P2, okay, we are also getting a linear plot since mole fraction is directly proportional to the partial vapor pressure. And both these lines 1 and 2 are passing or with each other or passing through a point where they both meet, where x1 and x2 is equal to unity. Now, an important point that has to be noted here is the minimum value of P total is P1 naught and the maximum value of P total is P2 naught, assuming that component 1 is less volatile than component 2, that is P1 naught is less than P2 naught. Okay, so minimum value of P total is P1 naught and the maximum value of P2 naught is, okay, maximum value of P total is P2 naught. Okay, minimum value of P total is P1 naught and the maximum value is found to be P2 naught, assuming that we are assuming that component 1 is less volatile than component 2, where P1 naught is less than P2 naught. Okay, so these are the conclusions that we can make from the graph or from the plot, okay, where the minimum value of P total was found to be P1 naught. Can you see the minimum value of P total that has been given P1 naught? Okay, so the total vapor pressure's minimum value is P1 naught and the maximum value is found to be P2 naught. Why? Because component 1 is less volatile than component 2, that is P1 naught is less than P2 naught. That is why maximum value is P2 naught and minimum value is P1 naught. Now, the composition of vapor phase in equilibrium with the solution is determined by partial pressures of the components. Okay, so the vapor pressure that is in the equilibrium or the composition of vapor pressure that is in equilibrium is determined by the partial pressures of the components. Okay, so Y1 is nothing but mole fraction of component 1 and Y2 is mole fraction of component 2. We are considering this. Okay, so since vapor pressure is equilibrium with the solution, so it is determined by partial pressures of the components. So let us consider Y1 as mole fraction of component 1 and Y2 as the mole fraction of component 2. So according to Dalton's law, we know that P1 is equal to Y1 into P total. Similarly, P2 is equal to Y2 into P total, right? So P1 is nothing but partial vapor pressure of component 1, right? And Y1 is mole fraction of component 1. And P total, we know P total is nothing but the total vapor pressure. Similarly, for component 2, it can be written as P2 is equal to Y2 into P total, where P2 is vapor pressure or partial vapor pressure of component 2. Y2 is mole fraction of component 2 and P total is nothing but the total vapor pressure. Okay, we are denoting this equation because the composition of vapor phase is in equilibrium with the solution. That is, we have understood that the vapor pressure of the solution is in equilibrium. That is, we can see there is an equilibrium being formed between the vapor phase and the liquid phase, right? So the composition of vapor phase is in equilibrium with the solution and it can be determined by partial vapor pressures of the solution or of the components. Okay, so it can be only determined by the partial vapor pressures of the components. So we have denoted by this equation P1 is equal to Y1 into P total. This is for component 1. Similarly, for component 2, it is denoted as P2 is equal to Y2 into P total. Now generally for I components, we can also calculate the value, that is Pi is equal to Yi into P total. Okay, where Pi is partial vapor pressure of component I, Yi is mole fraction of component I, and P total is total vapor pressure. Okay, so for infinite number of components also we can calculate the partial vapor pressure using this formula. Partial vapor pressure is equal to Yi into P total. Okay, this is in general. We can calculate the partial pressures of the I number of components. So with this we have understood what happens when liquids are dissolved in liquids. We have understood about Raoult's law. We have also understood Dalton's law of partial pressures, and we have understood the two graphs and the plots and what are the conclusions being observed from the graph, right? We have made some conclusions that we have understood from the plot. We have also understood few conclusions from the equation of Dalton's law of partial pressure, that is the equation number 3, that is P total is equal to P1 naught plus P2 naught minus P1 naught into X2, right? We have understood the three conclusions from this equation. We have also understood the conclusions that we have obtained from the graph or from the plot, and lastly we have understood how to calculate the partial vapor pressure of n number of components. Okay, if we have n number of components, we can calculate the formula, or we can calculate using the formula P1 is equal to Y1 into P total. Thank you.